screen, and I think we're ready to go. So, what am I doing today? Well, the first thing is that no matter what you think about the markets, you still got to worry about historical stuff, but there's a big but. So, you got on the one side a big old uptrend in the markets. I hope you could hear me now. So, the thing in here is you have two things going. Number one, historical going for you. Number two, though, you have the transports and the IWM going against you. So that's where you are right now, which means you don't have to do anything this second. I'm doing a short selling class tomorrow, and you saw, if anybody says, oh, why do you short? I hope you saw what happened yesterday. It was pretty quick, but that's all you need to make your week. So just keep that in mind. Let me give you the link. There's a time and a place to play it to the downside. So the problem in here is, sure, I see the bonds going down, bonds being down where they were at 8 in the morning. And this like skyrocketing compared to 8 in the morning. The big problem, big problem, I can't chase strength here when the bond market isn't going up, because that's what made the markets go down yesterday. The other thing, a lot of things I watch in here on the bottom left just won't go up, and the Russell won't go up. So what do I do in this case? I'll pick my spots and I'll mess around on the short side, but I'd rather see more of a bear flag sort of action. You had it earlier. So you had a teeny little bear flag back here that I posted, but the second it got over that, you had to give up. The other thing is, at that time, the NASDAQ was already breaking up. Now, what do you do now? Well, I'm not sure. So when I'm not sure, I just don't do a lot. It's up against resistance on an hourly, so it's got back everything and more from yesterday, while the bond market is down here. So when I get those two opposing forces, I just don't do that much. I will look for what has unusual weakness if I want to play something on the downside, and that's about it. So definitely you don't have the things that made you go up earlier. It's just not there. So that's where I am at the moment, is deciding what to do in here when I really don't want to commit on a Friday. Now, if I see a bear flag later, sure. So you might see a teeny one in Meta. But like I said, so far, everything is reacting pretty well to the bond market selling off. And I have no problem, like yesterday, of waiting. And that's what we did yesterday. So, and we'll do it again. So what I mean by that is that, yeah, we were short. So did we cover? Well, if you're a futures trader, you cover right here. That's in the middle of the night, unfortunately. But that's where you cover. But for now, don't have an idea. Don't have an idea. So if I don't have an idea, I'm not going to initiate and get myself in trouble. Just keep that in mind. A lot of what you do is avoiding disaster. So if you were short the ES and you don't get out here, like in here when the NASDAQ had already broken up, I'll show you in a 1 minute. You're making a big mistake. That right there is 1047. NASDAQ usually goes hand in hand. And I'm telling you, it just wasn't the time. Now, on a Friday, darn right, I'll play later. And also, if I see these bonds, as you see, they're not really going up much. And every little downtick of the bonds, you're watching the NASDAQ have a downtick. It's not a coincidence. So now the if-then for you. If you see these bonds unchanged, what's the NASDAQ going to do? That's the $1 million question. And at the moment, right now, the NASDAQ is acting great to everything. For me, I could either go and buy cheap puts like an Apple, cheap put spreads in these things, or just wait till later. So I'm probably going to wait till later just to let you know. So if, as you see, bond market going down, stock market going down, what was already rolling over? Well, the Apple was. So if I want to, you see the bond market on the upper right, you see the Russell, you see the Nasdaq. Yeah, I think you see the things I'm seeing. I hope you are. And the whole idea is what made the markets go up? Well, probably the bond market stopped going down. Now you have that pattern and you have that. And now you look for what won't go up on the little reaction rally. So that's what I'm watching. I'm thinking about buying the Apple puts just to let you know, but I haven't done it. We're already in longer term puts in other things and longer term calls and other things. And that's where we are at the moment, which means not much. Not much yet. Now, if I just don't see it at the moment. Everything is acting well to the bonds. Now, I know this. The reason I mentioned this is the bond market going down yesterday pummeled the ES. The only reason that I'm not massively short, and I talked about it yesterday, is because of the time of year. Historically, this is a time of year. Are you overbought? Darn right, you're overbought. So all the pundits are going to come out if we sell off and say, see, I told you. Well, the NASDAQ is higher than where all the pundits said there was timing and all that. Just keep that in mind. So a lot of the pundits, yeah, in hindsight, maybe they're right. So you see it overbought. There's a big difference between overbought in an uptrend and overbought in a downtrend. There's your overbought in a downtrend if you use this. Usually on a daily, I'll use the 50. So you got the ES over it, barely. You got the NASDAQ over it. You got the YM barely over it. You got the Russell not over it. And you definitely don't have the transports over it. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't see the edge at the moment. Maybe later, but not now. So that's where I am at the moment when it comes to that, which means you don't have to trade every second. So you don't have to trade every second, but I'm watching this right here, that overbought. I see it. I see the markets went up yesterday this morning because of the bond market. You just don't have that yet, but you also have the historical is winning. The historical is winning, and that's where you are at the moment. Advanced declines, still pretty putrid in here. NASDAQ advanced declines down. NASDAQ, that's total NASDAQ, not the NASDAQ 100. Then the NASDAQ's going bonkers. So if you're stubborn and you just want to go and buy something, buy puts, it's got to be cheap. Totally understand if you want to do that. Now, keep in mind, we're in things. Let's just put it that way. But we're in things that don't take a lot of commitment. And this is what I want to see. See that right there? I want to see that upside down. So I want to see this. We don't have it. Just warning you. Also, the higher the oil goes, we're in oil spreads. The higher the oil goes, the worse for the bond market. So doesn't mean every day, but right now it is mattering. So look at this chart on a 1 minute. Yeah, there you go. And look at the bond market on a 1 minute. Yeah, there you go. Nice correlation. But every sell off, the NASDAQ's been going up. So it's just they aren't caring about the bonds yet. But this is what I want to see. This is the ES upside down. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. You don't have that yet. So I'm just telling you, that's what I'm looking for. And you're not getting it. So I'm not touching anything till proven otherwise. And just so you know, longer term, sure, if this was May, I'd be all over looking for put spreads. But I just can't at this time of year. Just can't at this time of year, whether I want to or not. It's just not the right time to screw around at this time of year. So this is a dangerous thing, no doubt about it. I know that looks like an inverse head and shoulders. It's one of those things that right now looks overbought in an uptrend, but one more day down, it's going to look like up. It's going to look like overbought in a downtrend. So it's a tough call. Like I said, this time of year, you got to be careful. Here's the grit. So sure, and this includes just the cross. And I can't share this in the YouTube room. I can share it in the essentials. There. So as you see in here that I'm watching all of this. Oh, I haven't looked at when. I'll look at it in a minute, sure. But all I'm doing in here is seeing if any group is all of a sudden running out of gas. The problem is probably the 5 minutes are all over them. But definitely I'm watching that. I'm watching how bad the advanced decline gets. And when I see all this, I just don't trade till later in the day. So let's go look at win. So Mike has a lot of good ideas. So thanks for sharing that. Let's see. That's a tough one. You got that big reversal. I see what you're talking about. It's just really hard. It's a nice reversal candle. I've just seen like in Meta that I'd much rather see a reversal candle like it's support and testing something. So sure, let me look at win the other way. Let's look at it on a weekly. Now, there is something else going for it. So, tax law selling at the end of the middle of December. Yeah, this could be heavy because of tax law selling. They sell the losers, sell the winners. Sure. And I see the support. We actually had that from a long time ago. So I definitely see what you're talking about in there. So the reversal candles are long wicks. So the problem is a long wick under everything is a little scary. Hey, long wicks, weekly in an uptrend. Big difference. Big difference. So long wicks the other way in a weekly downtrend. Yeah, they worked. So a lot of it is probability. So even though I see exactly what you're talking about, no doubt about it. Well, right now, Mike, what's going on is everybody's starting to get scared about growth. I think that's not gross. Growth is getting scared of, and that's why the transports and the Russ have underperformed so much. So, but I don't know about that. I see what you're talking about. And I see this, I'm watching the corner of my eye, all those charts. And then on another thing, I'm watching all these charts. And the thing is, there's not always a good edge on the short side, which is what I'm going to mention in the class. Yesterday, there was. Today, there's not. So I'm not doing anything yet till proven otherwise. And that's where I am right now. Do I think that we should mess around with something like cheap puts in Apple? Yeah, I just for today, I would love to see a bear flag first and pay a little more for them. So I'm not seeing it. Look at Tesla go to a new high. So I see this in bonds a mile away, but this doesn't seem to care at the moment. So that's where I am at the moment. So nothing yet. So on the short side, the long side, it's really hard to buy something that's this much of a laggard. Really hard to buy gold. And I want to show you, we're going to go hindsight in gold. So everybody liked gold at the top. So everybody liked it. Well, the key is it sold off 80 points. We go a lot on FinViz and we go over if the commercials, if they're long or short or less short. So let's just go to FinViz and see. I've stayed away from gold because it was overbought on a weekly. But let's go to the futures. And let's go to gold futures. This comes out every late afternoon on Friday. You can get the report on your email. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Right there. You see on how it rallied? That's fine. It rallied when it upticked, but then it downticked the next week. I'm telling you, this thing is extremely accurate. There you go. Commercials, the green, always no. Now, this week, if I see this all of a sudden go like that and this is still here, that doesn't mean to blindly buy gold, but it means to look for a reversal pattern. So that's the key is always the reversal patterns. And you don't have that yet. Now, I will tell you, every little twerk of the NASDAQ in here, every little twerk, what isn't going near a new high? The Apple. Yet, you still got that 185 sort of strike price to worry about. Is there anything else of the biggies I'm watching that refuse to go up? Like not even close to a new high, besides the advanced declines. Not really. Everything else is holding up. Maybe PANW, but that's been a monster today. So nothing yet. So maybe Netflix. The problem is you have to see, like the bonds. Now, what do I do? Well, I'll probably look at something cheap in Apple because it refused to go up anyway. Like I said, though, historically, this is a strong time. It's a pain in the butt. So that's where I am. And I cannot tell in here. You see the downtick in bonds. Yesterday they cared, but they only cared when bonds went down enough. At this time of year, and I've harped on it, you just don't screw around until this. and just after Thanksgiving. I've seen a million times in here. What am I talking about? The SPX historically goes up until just after Thanksgiving, but I also want to show you something on a weekly. Oh, there you go. Overbought. How about this one? Right after Thanksgiving. Overbought on a weekly. Look at that. Overbought on a weekly. Markets got hit, got hit. How about now? It's not overbought yet. At least the SPX only posts every week. So this week, this candle is going to take back up, and you're going to take out these because the MACD works as a difference between moving averages. So this is probably going to get up to here. But you got Thanksgiving coming up, so it might hover here. And then get overbought. So that's what I'll be watching. That's what I'll be watching. So as you see, nothing cares yet. Nothing cares about the bond market. It's not the right day. They cared yesterday. They didn't care right when all the auction came out. In fact, the NASDAQ was up. So it's just not the time yet. Yet. I think a lot, and I'll mention this in the class, but it's a much, much better play on the downside when you see an overbought and a doji or some reversal candle on a weekly. You just don't have that, and it's really tough to show these on slides, but you just don't see it. So it's just not there, and it's reacting well to lousy bonds. And this, sure hard to go and fade that when that's at a new high. So you just don't fade it. So we got out. If you're going to play something, you have to play ultra short term, ultra. So that's a tough thing. Ultra short term. And also keep in mind, there are a lot of pundits that like to get short. And yesterday it goes down finally for them. Finally, after they got hooked for weeks. And then they're like, you see, and they quote them on CNBC. Well, they'll probably be right eventually. I just like to have those reversal candles longer term. You don't have them. Do you have warning signs? Yeah. But you had warning signs just now in the transports, and they're trying to come back. And I'm not a perma bear. I'm not a perma bull. I'm just talking about looking for initiations. And I'm doing a class because nobody else seems to do a class on shorts. And one thing I'm going to probably put in a slide is when you see the bond market only up this, and you see the NASDAQ up this, so you see those big divergences. If you want to hedge by doing something in the QQQ for next week, I totally understand. But for doing it for now, well, I'm seeing warning signs. No doubt I'm seeing warning signs. But if I do it, like I said, it has to be something for next week. restream. Trying to get this sound to work. So that's what I'm trying to do. I just reloaded it. And I'm reloading on this restream, and all I'm doing is trying to keep myself out of trouble until I get a better in. I don't have a better in yet. So, like I said, if I see some kind of resistance or reversal candle, sure, I'll go for it. Well, why would I go for it when this is up here in the stratosphere? Is it far away from things? Yeah. But I don't have any semblance of that or that, any kind of reversal candle. I see these start to run out of gas totally, but I don't see the in yet to take some kind of edge. It's just not there yet. No, I'll do the after hours, but I'll only do it like if earnings and stuff. Because the problem is you can't put in stop orders. So sure, I'll watch it, but usually it's with earnings if I'm gonna stay around. Besides that, I'm not gonna mess around with it. But let me show you with Meta. Like I said, there's a time and a place to play these on the downside. So there's one, but like I said, you got to be there every second. That's because Trade Desk had bad earnings. And I'd love to go back to earnings so you could see the bear flag after the close. But usually I'm not looking at it. It's a good question, but I'm usually not looking at it, even though a lot of times it could have support and resistance that matter. Here we go again. At this time of year, it doesn't matter as much. And it's one of those things where it is going to matter. It just doesn't matter right now. And thanks for getting the sound back on the tech team. So a lot of what we do is definitely trying to avoid disaster. You see that little inverse head and shoulders. Now, sure, you could go and try to buy like the 185 puts if they get cheap enough, but you still don't really have any reasons. Cheap enough means if this gets to like 185.20 and they're like 18 cents with 2 hours to go. But you don't see that yet. It just looks to me the only if then I see. You see, every sell off is bought. The only difference is going to be if this on the bottom upper right breaks. If that breaks and goes to here, then the stocks that seem to be ultra sensitive to every tick of the NASDAQ, yeah, they could have a move down. But right now, it just doesn't seem worth it, even though this is pretty darn parabolic, the NQ. That's how it looks to me. But like I said, there's a time and a place to play these. And sure, I'm trying to go on relative strength and weakness. And you see that every uptick of the NASDAQ, Apple refuses to go higher. But but that doesn't mean it's I don't want to say it like this, but that doesn't mean it's going down. You know, if the 185 puts were cheap enough, yeah, I might take a shot, especially if the bond market breaks. But I'd much rather mess around if this sells off and has a bear flag, which you don't have. And that doesn't mean I'm bearish all the time whatsoever. Whatsoever. especially at this time of year. I'm hoping I have a historical chart here I can show you. And that, like I said, that doesn't mean to blindly short. It doesn't mean to blindly buy. It just means bearish patterns are less likely to work unless there's some kind of trigger, like yesterday. I'm trying to find you the historical chart. I can't find it. But basically, between November 1st and the middle, well, I'll tell you my way. My way is it has a habit of going up until Thanksgiving. That's it. From my experience, the first twerk down is right around Thanksgiving. Every year that I try to time it, like it, you got to wait for that. Right in here, right in that November 24th area. How about the year before? There you go. Yep, right at Thanksgiving. So, and then it got overbought. So that's what I'm going to be watching. On the other hand, I definitely watch it every down tick of the Nasdaq. Apple's going down. So I see these ideas. I just don't have enough reasons yet. I mean, it's tempting. It's real tempting to go and pay 39 cents for the 185s, but it just isn't there. Nothing looks bad. You know, you might say, "Oh, Meta looks a little bad." Yeah, a little bad, but you don't have enough incentive to play anything on the downside yet. We saw it a month ago that when it went down a point and had a bear flag, heck yeah, then there was a good initiation, but it's not there at the moment. At all. So you see in here, this and a lot of what I teach is there's a time and a place to pound out a short, which isn't now. And what's funny, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Sure, the markets could sell off. I just don't have the triggers. I like the sell off and the consolidation. I don't like the anticipation. Like I said, not yet. So I'm seeing teeny cracks, but not enough to make a difference. The broad market, the advanced decline still down. Is that a negative long term? Sure, it is. Is it a negative this second? No. So when you're watching all this, you see certain things start to waver. So you see that when this was at a high, all of a sudden Meta and Microsoft won't go up, but is it enough reasons? It's not enough reasons to me. And then the bonds go up. I have no idea why. Why would those go up? Well, let's see if crude oil went down. Nope. No reason other than it was at support. All right, this is the first thing I'm seeing just from a theoretical that the NASDAQ refused to go higher when the bonds went up. I don't see it yet. So I know I'm going to be off, and I know all heck's going to break loose once I get off. So I've seen that a million times. As you see, the NASDAQ refused to go higher. But these little moves are just not enough. If this bond market now didn't do this on the upper right and did that, yeah, that would be different. And there's a time and a place to play things on the downside. Let's put it that way. That doesn't mean now. Now, from a futures point of view, I'm watching every little tick of the NASDAQ against the bonds. So when the bonds were just up 21, the NASDAQ wouldn't go up. So that's the theory. So if this sells off, then that'll go down. But I just don't have enough reasons. So I just want to make that clear. I know that that's a broken record. And I have no idea if we're going to do that today. But if the higher the NASDAQ goes, the more probability it's going to fill something. I don't know about that gap. I'm looking for you. Well, it's already sort of filled it a couple of days ago. So that's all I'm watching right now. And I just don't see it. If I see this down, that's different. I'll get really aggressive. So take care. Thanks. Sorry about the sound earlier. And short selling class tomorrow. There's a time and a place.